evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. The third biggest electricity production plant in the Sultanate starts its commercial operation with a production capacity of 1,500 megawatts. The Special Economic Zone Authority in Duqm, CEZAD, decides to increase the depth of the fishing port in Duqm. And Royal Navy of Oman ship Shabab Oman 2 wins the International Friendship Award at the Freedom Festival of Sailing in the Netherlands. Those are the headlines, and now for the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos sent a cable of greetings to Duke Henry, Grand Duke of Luxembourg, on the occasion of his country's National Day. Dahira Generating Company started the commercial operation of independent power plant project in the Walaya of Ibri with the production capacity over 1,500 megawatts. The investment volume in Ibri plant reached around 400 million Omani Rials. The plant is considered the biggest investment project in the government of Dahira and the third production plant in the Sultanate. It is worth mentioning that the plant was constructed by the private sector. The plant works according to the latest international standards and regulations in order to uplift operation and production efficiency and reduce costs. The plant is operated through natural gas. Special Economic Zone Authority in Duqm, CEZAD, decided to increase the depth of seaport to 10 meters as its depth was 6 meters. The authority aims to prepare the port in order to receive large-scale fishing ships and increase the economic value of the port, which will be the first port in the Sultanate that's depth reaches 10 meters. The CEZAD seeks to make Duqm Seaport one of the regional ports that is capable of rendering various services to large fishing vessels. The Ministry of Interior announced that Thursday is the last date to receive applications for the transfer of voter registration from one Walaya to another for the election of Shura Council members for the 9th term. The Ministry determined the period of transferring of voter registration from the 16th to the 27th of June 2019. It also said that the voters who wish to transfer their registration shall submit their application through the electronic website of the election based on their permanent or current address stated on the ID, provided that the ID has the electronic certification system. The Royal Navy of Oman ship Shabab Oman 2 has won the International Friendship Award at the Freedom Festival of Sailing in the Netherlands. It also awarded the Best Vessel Award at the port of Iskindf at The Hague in the Kingdom of Netherlands. 19 ships took part in this festival representing 10 countries. Professional training qualified the crew of the ship to win these outstanding achievements. Shabab Oman's visit comes as part of the 4th international voyage, which includes visits to 17 ports across 12 nations as part of its friendship tour. The total value of private deposits at commercial banks in the Sultanate increased by 1.9% at the end of last March as to reach more than 12 billion Omani Rials. The Central Bank of Oman's CBO showed that the total value of these deposits represented in term deposits with around 5 billion Rials, saving deposits with more than 4.5 billion Rials, and demand deposits with more than 3 billion Rials. With regard to banking indicators for Omani commercial banks at the end of last March, CBO pointed out that the rate of total currency and clearance to the deposits in Omani Rials amounted to 7.6%, while the percentage of total currency and clearance to the total deposits reached 6.7%. Still to come in our news bulletin. The National Centre for Statistics and Information prepared a database for recording the number of visitors to the Salalah Tourism Festival season.
بادر بقيد اسمك في السجل الانتخابي. تسجيلك حق وصوتك أمانة. انتخابات أعضاء مجلس الشورى للفترة التاسعة. مع تحيات وزارة الداخلية.
Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Southeast Asian leaders opened a two-day summit in Bangkok today. Formed more than half a century ago, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations has historically struggled with challenges facing the region because it works only by consensus and is reluctant to become involved in any matter regarded as internal to a member state. Officials are expected to discuss a code of conduct for negotiations over the South China Sea. The claims on the sea, one of the world's busiest waterways, asserted by ASEAN members, the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei and Indonesia, as well as China and Taiwan, make it a potential flashpoint. ASEAN leaders also face calls from right groups to rethink support for plans to repatriate Rohingya Muslims who have fled member states, Myanmar, where activists say returnees could face discrimination and persecution. Host country Thailand deployed large numbers of security for the summit after protesters stormed an ASEAN summit in 2009 in support of ousted former Premier Thaksin Shinawatra. U.S. President Donald Trump said he intends to nominate Army Secretary Mark Esper to be Secretary of Defense. The White House said in a statement that Esper takes over as acting Defense Secretary on Monday, following the resignation of Patrick Sahana, who is stepping down after media reports emerged this week of domestic violence in his family. Trump has not had a permanent defense secretary for 6 months. James Mattis abruptly quit as defense secretary in December after falling out with Trump over his foreign policies, including surprise decisions to pull troops from Syria and to start planning a drawdown in Afghanistan. Esper served in the first Gulf War, worked as an aide on Capitol Hill, and spent 7 years as vice president for the government relations as defense contractor Raytheon. Trump said he also plans to nominate David Norquist, who is currently serving as the Pentagon's comptroller, to be defense secretary, and Ryan McCarthy, who is undersecretary of the Army, to be secretary of the Army. All the nominees need confirmation by the U.S. Senate. Mauritania's today went to the polls as the outgoing president's preferred successor faced 5 opposition candidates in the West African nation threatened by religious extremism. It is expected to be the country's first peaceful transfer of power. One candidate of sub-Saharan African descent wants to improve race relations in a country where activists estimate tens of thousands of people still live in slavery, despite the practice being banned by the government for decades. Mauritania, a coastal Sahara desert nation of 4.5 million people, has suffered 5 coups since independence from France in 1960 and has been led by military rulers for much of that time. President Mohamed Ould Abdelaziz was head of the Presidential Guard when he seized power in the 2008 coup. He said he did so to prevent a return to repressive military rule. Mauritania is a member of the G5 Sahel Regional Counterterrorism Force, which was established in 2017, but has been plagued by funding problems. Mauritania was the last country to abolish slavery, doing so in 1981, but did not criminalize it until 2007. Back to some more local news. Al Wafa Center for Disabled Children Rehabilitation in the Wilaya of Mutaibi in the Governorate of North Sharqiya organized a ceremony to honor supporters of the center's activities. The celebration also included the inauguration of handicraft work exhibition that showcased works by some students and employees of the center. The ceremony was presided over by His Excellency Dr. Saud bin Hamouda Al Habsi, Undersecretary of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries Wealth, and also included a presentation that highlighted the center's achievements during 2018 and 2019. The National Center for Statistics and Information started the implementation of the field works for counting the number of Salalah tourism season visitors for 2019, which will continue till the 21st of September. It aims to provide a database for tourism sector in the Governorate. The project seeks to provide various data and information that reflect the tourism sector in the Governorate of Dhofar during this season. It also aims to identify the volume of tourism of this season locally in terms of local and foreign visitors, determine its growth trends, and study its demographic and economic characteristics. It is worth mentioning that the results of the counting of Salalah tourism season visitors showed that more than 326,000 people visited the Governorate, with an increase by 28%. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The third biggest electricity production plant in the Sultanate starts its commercial operation with a production capacity of 1,500 megawatts. The Special Economic Zone Authority in Duqm, CEZAD, decides to increase the depth of the fishing port in Duqm. And Royal Navy of Oman ship Shabab Oman 2 wins the International Friendship Award at the Freedom Festival of Sailing in the Netherlands. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studio, it's good night.